Other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you think that the pike fishing is bad for the bass, like Pend Oreille?
No, I'm glad you bring that. I'm glad you bring that up. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm all about catch and release. Okay. And I've spoken several times with Jason Connor, who's the head of the fisheries biologist up there for the tribe. And I've asked him this question several times. Because, guys, it's sickening to me. I see it happen. I caught 2 pike up there this year that had their gill cut. Okay? One side cut. Completely healed. And they're still thriving. Okay? Because they're tough. But these guys are going up and they're doing that. For one, you never ever waste something. I don't care if you're a hunter or a fisher. If you're going to take it to the point to kill it, you better take it home and consume it. You do not waste. Okay? That breaks my heart for one. The second thing is that attitude there of we got to kill these things off. Okay? In nature, man has a tendency to kill the undesirable. Pike minnow down there on the Snake River. Let's pay guys a bunch of money for something we think is going to happen. Guys, I'm here to tell you that smallmouth bass consume far more of those smolts than those pike minnow do. We're not going to put a bounty on those because what? Smallmouth bass is tournaments. There's money involved. It's desirable. There'd be a huge uproar. Jason's told me they've done several studies up there because the tribe has put a ton of money into the largemouth bass up there. You go through there to Pend Oreille and you'll see these big grates down below. Well, that's habitat they've put in. Places for them to spawn, places for them to hide. They are not finding largemouth bass in stomach samples of northern pike. Reason being, bass, largemouth or smallmouth. They're a spiny-rayed fish, correct? They don't have a ton of oil. Has anybody in here ever ate a whitefish? Okay, are they an oily fish? What do you say? Smoke them up, right? Yeah. You smoke them. It's an oily fish. That is a higher protein. That's what they want. They don't want something with spines. Spines are hard to break down. They're hard on the system. There's not a lot of reward for that. Now, have I caught bass that have been hit by pike? You bet. I have a show where I show you a smallmouth that's 16 inches and a largemouth that's 16 inches where both sides of them have been hit. What that has to do with is, hey, you got a little too close to me while I was courting my female. Okay? Pike are broadcast spawners, guys. Bass, they go and make a nest and all that. The pike, he goes in, one female goes in, and I've seen it. 2, 3 males. It's a cool thing to see. Slide right around a female, just right on her side like this. And what they're doing is they're depositing eggs, which are tacky, which stick to that green vegetation in 8 to 10 feet of water. The males fertilize, the females stick the egg. They don't build a nest. I had a guy in here yesterday ask me that same question. Said the pike are killing all the bass in the chain lakes. And I told you, well, this is my theory. What's happened? We've had some big floods and stuff, correct? How does the pike spawn now that you know? Attaches to green vegetation, correct? The bass has to do what? Build a bed, right? When all that silt and all that debris and lead comes down and floods into those places, what happens to that substrate? It becomes silted in, right? Well, if they don't fan it down to where they get to clear gravel, when the male pushes a female, largemouth, bearded smallmouth, pushes a female onto a bed, the female deposits the eggs, he fertilizes the eggs. When they hatch out, they're laying down in that gravel. They actually fall down into that gravel, and that male sits there and fans, constantly keeping that bed clear of silt. He's moving oxygen across the eggs. That's how they're reproducing. If that silt comes in and the river blows out, they get silted in. That river system is full of silt. Now, we know that, Chad and I, know that there's great bass in there. I did a show up there, 42-degree water, wind blowing 40 miles an hour with my dad last year. I watched him catch a 7.2 and a 7.12 largemouth in one day. Not to say the several 6s that we caught at the tip of a percentage triangle off of Rock Bluff. Right? So there's bass in there. It's the same thing, guys, with the bull trout. All right? Now, this is totally off the topic, but I'm going to soapbox it because we're on this right now. They want you to go out and kill all the lake trout off, and they're paying guys, $30,000 a year to take them all off. All right? The lake trout, he's not native. Kokanee aren't native. Whitefish are native. Pike minnow, hey, a lot of those were around way before time. Okay? Bull trout back in the 50s and 60s, and you older fellows that before I was around, that was a trash fish. I can remember my grandfather talking about it. We just kill them and throw them on the bank. When I was a kid, 4 or 5 years old at Priest Lake at Lionhead on Memorial Day, I remember guys casting off the beach with an egg sinker, small hook, and a Plotsky's egg, catching them and throwing them up on the beach, leaving them for dead. It's a trash fish. It consumes everything. Now the Lakers are in there. The Lakers are the problem. That's why there's no kokanee left. The reason why there's no kokanee left, because of the mysid shrimp. They put the mysid shrimp in the 70s. These old timers that I'm friends with, they were catching 30, 40, 50-pound lake trout up there. The state record kokanee, 6 pound, 9 ounces out of Priest Lake. Then what happened is all of a sudden everything started to disappear. The mysid shrimp were competing for all the nitrates in the water, basically filtering it out. Those nitrates are what feed all those fry. That's your baseline microscopic plankton that those small fry feed on. They basically made that water sterile. The problem with the bull trout, I can remember going to Indian Creek when I was a kid, to the falls, and seeing bull trout in those pockets. Through time, streams change. With logging, they silt up. If a fire comes through, what happens? Everything dies. You get a bunch of rain, silt comes in. River beds change. The Laker has made it for the same reason the northern pike will make it, and it's this. Lake trout spawn in the lake, and they're broadcast spawners. Okay? It's basically a group orgy, if you will. You go up there when it's happening in the fall time, in 25 to 30 feet of water, and your graph will be black from top to bottom. You can drop your drop shot weight down and feel it hitting the fish on the way down. It's just a massive reproduction. A bull trout has to do what? They have to travel a stream. They pair up just like a salmon or a steelhead. They make a red, which is the fanning of silt to make a bed, and they reproduce that way. All this money that's going to kill all these fish and these lake trout, which lake trout are near and dear to my heart. I love them. I've taken kids 6, 7 years old up, gotten them 15, 20-pound fish, and I just love the smile on the face. My oldest person that ever caught a big one was 78 years old. Biggest fish he'd ever caught in his life, grinning from ear to ear. And they want to wipe something out, history repeating itself, just like the bull trout. Okay? Leave her alone. Mother Nature will take care of it. Give her some help in these stream beds if you want the bull trout to come back. But to just eradicate something like the lake trout, because the lake trout is an undesirable. Kokanee is a food fish. So we point the finger at that. If pike minnow eat all the smolts that are in the Snake River, right? Why aren't they killing them off in Pend Oreille Lake? There's more pike minnow in Pend Oreille Lake than I've seen anywhere in my life. Well, there's no bounty on them up there. Okay? Didn't mean to soapbox you, but that's just something that I look at the little ones, guys, and I always preach catch and release. And I'm not a guy that says don't go out and put some fish in your cooler. I love to eat fish. I've ate fish my whole life. But you take the small ones. You take the small ones for 2 reasons. They're the best eating, and a lot of them, the smaller ones, are not sexually mature yet. You take a male bass, largemouth, 3 to 4 years of age, that largemouth becomes sexually reproduce. He can sexually reproduce. Okay, he's mature. Female is 4 to 5 years of age. All right. You take those smaller ones, which I don't like people to keep bass, but everybody's got their license. You paid for it, whatever. Go out and keep the smaller ones. They taste better. They're not sexually mature. The fishery continues on. Okay.